Wonderful. Okay. Well, I just want to welcome you all here tonight. We are so happy that you're here with us for this very important topic of your role, your rights, your voice, understanding special education for your Native American child. And it is truly a privilege for me to introduce my colleague, Dominic Good Buffalo. He is a PACER parent advocate. He's been here for 2 years doing the good work that we do together. And I'm excited about learning tonight alongside all of you from Dominic. So, Dominic, take it away.
All right, thank you, Miss Rachel. Yeah, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for attending tonight. Miigwech and Wopio. So I thank you guys for coming. And um, I'll have a quick intro about myself on the slides, but just a quick reminder before we start. So I have the chat open. I don't know if it should be open for the attendees as well. Miss Rachel's going to be moderating that during the presentation. So if there's anything uh, uh, firing that you want to ask right away, feel free to use that chat or the Q&A session. It looks like that was open. We had a question about the early bird special earlier, so that's open as well. So feel free to use that Q&A box. But we will have a Q&A period at the end. And we'll leave that open, and it might not go all the way till 6:30. I know everyone's busy around this time of night, so I want to respect everyone's time. So with that, I will share my screen. All right. If everyone in the chat just wants to give me a thumbs up if they can see my presentation here. And Miss
Yeah,
Rachel, if you want to give me
yeah,
the okay. Okay,
yep,
cool.
absolutely. You're good to
All right.
go.
All right. I don't know if you can see me anymore, but um, yeah, so welcome. It's your role, your rights, your voice. So understanding special ed to support your Native American child. So this webinar is made possible with funding from the Minnesota Department of Education.
And
Um,
Dominic,
oh, go ahead.
it looks like the chat is disabled.
Okay.
Sometimes happens when
Okay.
Zoom webinar set up, but there is a Q&A that's open. So if for everyone, if you look down at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat option, but there's also a Q&A. And so you should be able to open up that Q&A and put in your questions there, and I'll make sure that Dominic hears them when you put your questions in the Q&A. Hope that clarifies.
Thank you, Miss Rachel. So yeah, so but yes, again, there'll be time for Q&A at the end, and we'll get that going. But also the slides will also be shared with those that attended tonight. So after the presentation, once you do the surveys and the emails, once that is sent out afterwards, you'll also get a copy of the slide deck. All right, so with tonight's agenda, we'll do just introduction, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that's IDEA, federal law, Individualized Education Program, or IEP plan, roles, responsibilities, and rights, and how Native culture and special education uh, and how that affects in special education, and then time for Q&A at the end. So really simple, quick agenda tonight. So a quick introduction to me. So again, my name's Dominic Good Buffalo. I am Oglala Lakota Nation from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. PACER project coordinator and Native family advocate for the PACER Center, and actively working with youth and families since 2003. So for a little bit of time there. I have experience in leading Indian Ed programming and family engagement projects, project coordination, parent and family advocacy as well. My previous role was with St. Paul Public School. So you might have seen me at powwow or somewhere in the community around that time, about a couple years ago. And so, yeah, that was my last district. So real quick about Pacer Center. So Pacer Center was founded in 1977. And so really just a simple formula of parents helping parents. And so that's what we're doing tonight. And passing on along that Pacer mission in a good way. And so Pacer is a trusted source of information, training, and support for families of children with disabilities. Our services help families and youth navigate special education and other complex systems, discover assistive technology solutions, and accessing bullying prevention resources. So we are the only organization in Minnesota that provides support for families of children and young adults with any disability from birth to age 26. And that's a recent change in Minnesota law. There was one slide in here. I'll say that a little bit later. It's not 21, but it is 26 now. And so Pacer services are provided free of charge to Minnesota families. So never let that be a barrier. We are always willing to help as much as we can at Pacer. Real quick, I'm gonna show just a video, and then we'll continue from there. So I'm gonna press play and let it go. So it's only a 2-3 minute video. So
Has your child's teacher talked to you about special education, but you feel confused? Or are you new to special education and wondering what it is? And what does it mean for your child? Pacer Center gets it. Most of the staff at Pacer Center are parents of a child with a disability, like you. The information in this video will give you a quick summary of special education. It will help you make better decisions for your child. First, special education is sometimes called special ed. It is a set of services for students with disabilities who are found eligible. Most services take place at school and are designed to help your child make progress in their education. Services are provided to your child by a special education staff person, teacher, or a therapist. Special education services are based on what kind of help your child needs. Services might include speech therapy or physical therapy, extra help with math or reading, or practicing social skills like how to greet others or start a conversation. Location. Special education services can take place in a separate classroom, like a special ed or resource room. Or services may happen in your child's general education classroom alongside their classmates. How often? Services can take up a lot of your child's school day, or might happen just a few times a week. The location and times are different for every student. For example, your student may get specialized math instruction 2 times a week for 20 minutes in their general education classroom. The IEP. Before your child receives services, a team of educators will write up an individualized education plan called an IEP. As the parent, you will be part of that team. The IEP will have specific information about what special services your child will receive. You will get a copy of the IEP document to review before signing it. You have the right to discuss it with your child's IEP team. You can also disagree with it and make changes. Let's review. Special education is a set of services to help your child with their education. It generally takes place at your child's school. Services are planned out in the IEP document. And remember, you can disagree with the IEP and have it changed. Always keep in mind the big picture. The goal of special education services is to help your child make progress in their education and to help them become active members of their community. We hope this video answered some of your questions. You're not alone. Many parents have children who receive special education services. We've all had to learn so we can support our kids. You can do it too. If you have more questions about special education or your role or rights as a parent, contact Pacer Center. You can reach us online or call us and ask for a callback from a parent advocate.
all right. Yeah, and so that's just a collection of our sponsors and those that we work with to make those videos possible. And so, yeah, so you'll see me describe special education as special ed. That's really a lot of acronyms used in education currently, and it's been like that ever since I've been around it. I'm a product of that, and I've also used that in districts that I've worked at as well. And so that acronyms is just one of a plethora of acronyms that educators use. And so we really help families navigate a lot of that language with when we represent them in IEP meetings. So, but we'll go ahead and continue. All right, so Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so when we're going through this, I will relate this to not just with federal law, but also just how that affects the Native community, and try to make that correlation. And a lot of it will generalize at the end, because a lot of it, working directly with the Native community now for many years, it's really, a lot of these are the bases that families tend to not have an idea of. And so, yeah, so we're going to go through this step by step and make sure that, yeah, so that you guys are well educated on that. So the purpose of IDEA, again, was to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special ed and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. Also in there, it should be community as well, and how they interact with people. To ensure that the rights of children with disabilities and parents of such children are protected, and to assist states, localities, educational service agencies, or ESAs that you might have heard, and federal agencies to provide for the education of all children with disabilities. To assist states in the implementation of a statewide, comprehensive, coordinated, multidisciplinary, interagency system of early intervention services for infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families. So it's not just primarily kindergarten through 12th grade or the age of 26. So this also goes into the ECFE category as well, from birth to age 3, that it's covered. And I'll cover that a little bit in the presentation. So, yeah, so that's really just the purpose of IDEA, and when they made this law, pass this law. So, and also continuing off of that is to ensure that educators and parents have the necessary tools to improve educational results for children with disabilities by supporting system improvement activities, coordinated research, and personnel preparation, coordinated technical assistance, decimation and support, and technology development and media services. So a lot of that, a lot of this work is coordinate to families, but also supporting the staff of your school district, and to make sure that they are properly trained to assist families, to assist and ensure the effectiveness of efforts to educate children with disabilities. So you guys will have a copy of this. I'm not going to get into it tonight. And with a lot of these links, they go really deep in the federal law. And so I won't necessarily introduce you to that, but on your own time, you could dig deeper on these links provided. So you can see U.S. Department of Education right here, but we'll just go ahead and continue. The principles of IDEA. So there's our 3 main areas when we talk about how IDEA was developed and the reason for it. I think a lot of people think of IDEA and the other laws passed. I know there was one major one in the early 90s. I think that was the ADA accommodations and everything. But yeah, so but I'll describe kind of the 3 main areas of IDEA. But it's FAPE, the LRE, and the parent participation. So FAPE is free, appropriate public education. And so the right to a free and appropriate public education designed to meet the unique educational needs of a student with disabilities at no cost to parents in the least restrictive environment. And you ask yourself, what's the least restrictive environment mean? So that means to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are non-disabled. So that's their peers. So you might see in an IEP, and I'll explain more about IEP a little later, how certain placements in your child's school will be the certain percentage of time that they're with their non-disabled peers, and when they're in the special ed room or getting their accommodations met. So, and parent participation. So the collaboration between the parents and the school to improve children's education experience and and academic performance. So um, I'll get to that a little later, but parent participation could be anything from parent committees, which is a big one. Um, I'll talk about a couple big parent committees in every single district, um, and what are the opportunities that parents can have in their child's education other than just attending conferences or attending school events. So the principles of IDEA continue. So appropriate evaluation. Evaluation is the tool used to assess eligibility, either initial or continuing, and determine education needs. So that'll be the evaluation that you do before the IEP, and the IEP is the Individualized Education Program. This document outlines a student's academic and functional needs, annual goals, special education and related services, supplementary aids and services, and a statement describing the student's educational placement. Um, and that's individualized to your child. It's not a one size fits all um, placement that fits every student with disability. No, this should be individualized to your child and his or her needs that should be met. And this is also a legal document as well, and something that the district has to fulfill. And procedural safeguards, parental rights in the special education process. Um, uh, so I'll talk more about what those safeguards are, but for example, could be a mediation, could be a conciliation conference, could be a facilitated team meeting. So those are procedural safeguards that parents have in their rights in this process. And so for free and appropriate education, it's free. It's at no cost to parents. Appropriate, this program is tailored and planned to meet your child's needs. I was going to say the child's needs, but your child's needs. I think that sounds a little bit better. And also public schools are responsible for designing and implementing the IEP. And so they do have a responsibility to make sure that your child is educated and make sure that they fulfill the standards that is needed for graduation. So I'm talking about high school and then transitioning to whatever the child's goals are. And so the education, it's specifically or design instruction described in an IEP. So these are more laws again on the bottom. If you would like to refer to those, we also has a really good 3-minute video as well of what fits like a proper outfit and what that looks like. Really great, and I highly suggest that. And then moving on to understanding your child's IEP. So, what is an individualized education program? What is an IEP? So, real quick, under IDEA, the primary vehicle for providing FAPE is through an appropriately developed IEP that is based on the individual needs of the child. An IEP must include the child's present levels of academic achievement and functional performance and the impact of that child's disability on involvement and progress in the general education curriculum. IEPs must be aligned with the state's academic content standards for the grade in which the child is enrolled. And so I'm involved in a lot of IEP meetings throughout the year. And really, I think parents have to understand that it is aligned with the state standards. And when it comes to high school and graduation, um, there's no difference between an IEP diploma and a regular diploma. They have the same strength. But I think a lot of parents have to understand that these content standards have to be met. And it's not saying that the IEP is not being accounted for, but it's saying that with these accommodations that they will have more time to take a test, for example, or like the MCAs, right? They'll have more time to take it, but they still have to pass those scores if again whatever the child's goal is after high school. And there's more resources on the Dear Colleague letter. I really like that one. And then it's a state statute for for the purposes of IDEA. So that's on the bottom right there. So really at the in-depth look of your child's IEP, there's going to be 12 kind of main areas or 12 big points that I won't go too super into, but I will mention them now to kind of give you what the build of an IEP is. So the big one is identifying the information. Again, um, identifying what this child looks like. There's also child find that the district is responsible for to provide those services, identifying who those children are, and what those children need special ed. So it's something that the teacher sees. It's something that the parent sees, probably identified at birth. A lot of this can be done when you're screening your child at a young age. That's why for parents in ECFE programs, I highly suggest screening. So a lot of this can be identified as early as possible, and even as early as birth, to get that evaluation going. And the second is progress reporting, what that looks like and what that looks like during the school year. There's usually a yearly IEP meeting every year, and every 3 years they'll do a reevaluation of that progress and where they need to go from there. And like I like to tell parents, it may not be for everything, but it may be, and it depends on your child's disability. And so there's a lot of factors that comes with that. And so um, yeah, so as long as you understand that, and there's more links for that here in the slide deck as well, and also present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. So the school psychs, the OT therapists, so all of them will go through, I believe it's 12 to 13 areas. Miss Rachel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 12 to 13 main areas that they'll look at, and where your child falls into. And so that's just the present levels of academic achievement and what the functional performance is. And so measurable annual goals. So again, like I mentioned before, they'll go through those goals with you one by one. They'll come up with those goals with you. Nothing is made on the district's decision. This is a IEP team decision, and those goals will be come up with early on. Services, what those actual services are. Is it aid in school, or is it aid from a paraprofessional? So services can look different. There's a good example of what those look like, of direct and indirect services right here on this link, and examples of that. It could be from assistance from reading, and indirect could be a assistance from reading while in the main classroom. So that could be kind of an indirect kind of help with your child when they have one-on-one in a full classroom setting. So that could be 20 to 25 students in the classroom, but they'll see that as a indirect service, right? So yeah, but then there's also accommodations and modifications. So there's different ideas in there. Accommodations could look like anything from as little as having the elevator key, for example, so you can get a wheelchair up to the third floor. Having more time to take a test. There's plethora of examples of what those accommodations and modifications can look like. And also I get questions about, Dominic, should I go for an IEP or 504 plan, or what's more effective for my child? That's something that's on a case by case basis. And if there's any more questions about that, I can answer that at the end. And feel free to use the question and answer box as well if you have questions on that. Again, least restrictive environment, LRE, something they're going to look at within the IEP. Their state statute right there, an idea, Minnesota Department checklist, which is a good one. And then what parents need to know on the least restrictive environment and which placement that looks like. And we also have a great little short 2-3 minute video on what different placements look like, whether it's place 1, 2, 3, or 4, and what the percentages look like. And it depends really on your child's disability. ESY, extended school year. Again, parents get this confused with summer school, I think, but it's not really like that. Summer school is to really catch up with of what they need to catch up with, and it depends what grade they're in. But extended school year is if they were going to lose those basic skills that during the summer break they would definitely be set way back. And so extended school year is for those children that are on those disabilities, and it depends what their disabilities are. And a lot of parents get that confused with summer school, and it's not. And so we have a really great list of here what parents need to know, um, and really highly suggest checking that out. And then transition services. What is it after high school? What is it? What's your child's goal? It can be from post-secondary to college to a trade. It could be just living in the community or with a lot of families. I know in my community, and depends on the disability as well. It's not uncommon for them to be with their families for the rest of their lives. Just with a lot of Native households, there's two, three generations in one household. And so usually that's what I'm here to talk with my colleagues about because that's a cultural thing. And there's someone here that understands that. Lived in a household. There was five of us growing up, and we had a couple other family members living with us, so it's not unheard of in the Native community for that. And so, yeah, so those transition services should be covered in the IEP. Extracurricular activities also after school. There's different rules for that, but for non-academic settings, they should have assistance with that if it's needed. We have a couple resources on that if they need help with that, or assistance if they're on the football team, for example. So there's rules for that, and I got a couple good resources here if you would like to dig deeper for that. Transportation is also a big thing where districts have to provide that transportation to and from school or from home to school. And that's as you can see, just not federal law, but state law. Um, yeah, so definitely highly suggest looking in that, and also testing accommodations, like I mentioned earlier. That could look like anything. And so there's examples in there in the participation in assessments and also the statewide assessments and what that looks like for the MCAs and statewide tests that students have to use. And yeah, parent and family roles, responsibilities, and rights. Just checking the time here. So yeah, so with the IEP team and the parents' roles and responsibilities, so I think a lot of families kind of get confused on who's on the IEP team and who are they allowed to have there. So I'm gonna go through this list um, and see and let you know who's required to be there. So again, it's the parents or parents of the child, um, or caregiver, at least one regular education teacher of the child, at least one special education teacher or service provider for the child, a representative of the LEA or the local education agency. That's usually a district rep that they send over. That could be anyone with the decision making authority. So that could be principal, that could be assistant special ed director, that can be even the assistant superintendent to come in and sit in on those meetings. So, but they got to have a district rep there. Someone who can interpret the child's evaluation results. So they'll usually have a school psych or school social worker there to interpret those child's evaluation results. The child with a disability whenever appropriate, usually just with a lot of elementary meetings. I don't usually see a lot of those children there, but with high school, I guess that's more common. Secondary, that you see the child kind of speak where they're coming from, what's affecting them in their learning, um, where I find in my experience, but whenever appropriate. I've been in a couple meetings where the elementary child is there, so it's just whenever appropriate. Also, a big one right here, Native American cultural advocate or homeschool liaison or other culturally specific district employees. So, if the school has 5 or more Native children, so they are required to have a parent committee, American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. And so that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have a Native cultural advocate there or a homeschool liaison. But if your district does have that, I highly suggest that, especially with the cultural pieces. And a lot of this, when we're sitting on these IEP team meetings, sometimes in the smaller districts or the rural districts, you won't have that person. But if there is a chance that someone, and it might not be a homeschool liaison per se, but someone culturally. It could be a social worker, it could be anybody in the school district that does represent that. You would definitely want that person there. And I highly suggest that. And also at the end here, other individuals with knowledge or special expertise about the child who are invited by the parents or the LEA. And so this is kind of where it gets confusing a bit because, for if parents are able to bring anyone, it's fair to give that decision back to the LEA for them to bring anybody from the district that they feel could represent the district more. And so they kind of have that right. I kind of explain that to parents that even though it's not unheard of, you might see the superintendent there, or you might see the special ed director there. It's not uncommon for that to happen. And so the district gets the same rights to bring who they would like. And so it kind of goes both ways in that sense. And so that really gets some parents confused. And so I have to um, kind of let parents know what that means and what that means for the district. So these are some just common tips for parent participation on the IEP team. So, we tell parents, to keep everything in writing, keep everything in writing. Read all the notices, reports, and other documents you receive from the school. So we got one of these. I don't know if I have one with me, but we have one of these plastic folders that I like to take with me on. I don't know if you can see it on the camera here, but they're called special education record keeping folders. So it's not just the IEP that we let families have those, but also the good stuff. So like the awards in their program and things like that, and parents tend to forget about the good things in their child. So it's not just those important papers, but also their achievements as well within school. But also, keeping all that documented, emails, anything that's in writing, we tell parents to keep a good track of. Make it a habit to ask questions whenever you don't understand something. We do a lot of prepping with the parents beforehand or before a meeting, but make it a habit just to ask questions when you don't know anything during the meeting. You don't know what you don't know, right? So if they're using an acronym you just don't understand, or if they're using language that seems confusing or a lot of words that you just don't know, just tell them to put it in simple English, um, and make sure that you ask that question. And so we do a lot of navigating within those meetings when it comes to the conversation, but a lot of this is parents helping parents, and we want to make sure that you make it a habit to ask those questions. Um, thirdly, we develop a system for keeping track of your child's special ed records. So just any system that you feel comfortable with. And I know organization, it can be tough, but just developing a simple system of keeping all the emails on a folder on your computer, or keeping track of those important papers in a simple folder that you keep track of in the kitchen, for example. So it's really those practical, simple systems, for keeping track of those records. Learn the basics of the special ed process and your child's IEP. So, we got real great resources here at Pacer on that, and the basics of the special ed process. We're going through it right now, and keep track of your child's IEP. And also, I would throw in there, keep track of the student handbook that the district provides you when you enroll your child. So being really aware of that, of the student handbook and what the district rules are on discipline, transportation, or communication. A lot of those things, could be just explained in that student handbook. And so I really tell parents to keep track of that somewhere. Get informed about your rights and responsibilities as the parent on the IEP team. So really just going out of your way, learning what your rights are. We got those little rights cards we have in here. I got them with me, but I like to hand out at community events. But just learning what those are and being knowledgeable can go a long way in an IEP meeting. And really, at the end of the day, it's just become a fact finder. Gather information about your child's school program, about your child's school, about when the events are. Being proactive in attending your child's um, events, or yeah, so just really just doing that, or going to conferences, school conferences, being active in that. And so that's a really good place that we have there. But yeah, we'll continue to the next slide. But real quick, looks like we have
Yeah, we do have a question
yep.
now. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Um, Quick question from Carissa. So question about IEP meeting. I have asked for the paras to attend as they are with my son throughout the day, but the district has denied this request. All right, so we'll uh what the
That
district has denied.
that is a
Oh, go ahead.
that is a tough one. Is it okay if
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
this has come up with in calls with me recently, and I think often the difficulty is that the paraprofessional is a worker who is not salaried, and so the district cannot hold them accountable for attending meetings outside of their working hours, and so they have to pull the para out of their position in the classroom in order to attend an IEP meeting, which it can be difficult, as we're all very, I think, understanding right now of the troubles with staffing paraprofessionals across the state, along with other support staff. So that is often the difficulty, and I think that you can. That doesn't mean you can't advocate for the para's perspective to be included in your child's IEP team meeting. You can get creative about that. And that you can maybe in different ways, right? You could ask for the opportunity to have a conversation with the para, have some communication, ask them some questions, kind of interview style, collect some data from them, and then you can share that at the meeting. And you can ask the IEP case manager too for your child to just, work on this problem with you, because the parent knows your child so much, as you're saying, knows your son throughout the day, gets to work with your son and see where he's having success, where he's struggling. And so you can, put the problem back on the table to the case manager and say, well, if the parent can't attend, then how do we gather all the wisdom they have about my son and have that available to us at the IEP team meeting. You don't necessarily have to solve that problem, but just give that problem back to the IEP team. And you're saying you've asked for communication, but it's always been denied and you can only have contact with the special education teacher. Dominic, do you think that's a situation where you might recommend that the parent kind of go up the ladder a little ways and maybe talk to the special ed
Yes,
coordinator?
yes. I would say go up the ladder. And it's usually decisions like that that, uh again, it's like Miss Rachel said, it's a lot of resources um that aren't there at the district. And so it's really just finding that creative solution within the IEP team and the IEP meeting. And so but we can get more at the end with that. But yeah, definitely I think an opportunity to go up the ladder. Yeah. But yeah, so I will I got this question, Krista, but we'll get to it. But I think I opened up chat as well. So if that's easier, just try chat as well as I'm continuing on. But we'll continue more with that question as I get through the next couple slides here. But
Dominic,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I just because of what that Chris is sharing that she's already
Mm.
gone all the way up to the special education director. Um, might you recommend at this point that she contact a PACER parent advocate like yourself or
Yes. Worst case scenario, again, I'll have my information at the end and we could talk more after the meeting. So, um, I think it's just to be fair with everyone's time. I want to make sure I respect that. So, um, but yes, let's continue with the presentation. I'll let Rachel answer that in chat. Um, but continuing on, it's clearly communicate your family's unique goals and concerns for your child. So, make that clear, make that the head main point um, during the IEP meeting. Listen to and consider everyone's input. The strength of the IEP team is in the different perspective each member brings. And share your thoughts and feedback. You are the only parent expert on your child's IEP team. And I was going to mention that at the first one that you're the expert of your child. We only see them, what, 6, 7 hours out of the day, and you see them for the rest of the time and through the weekends and through the summer. So that is your child. You are the expert. So, I'm going to lean on you to help me, an educator, do my job more effectively of what your child goes through. So you are the parent expert um, on that team. Help your child actively participate in the IEP process as much as is appropriate. Again, that differs on the grade and the situation. Monitor your child's progress. Alert the IEP team if your child is struggling. So a lot of parents like to wait last minute or during a busy time at the end of the school year. You can call an IEP team meeting any time of the school year. Once you first get that monitor or you first get that alert that your child is struggling in school, call that IEP team meeting, Um, it doesn't hurt to get that going and get it taken care of right away. Excuse me. And always keep the focus on your child. Again, it's about your child. This is not about the parents and the district. Again, I like to promote a good collaboration and a good working relationship with the family and the school district. And I like to keep that rapport as positive as much as possible. Um, and really, it's about your child. It's not about us. It's about your child and what their needs are. So it's really keeping them at the center of every conversation and the meeting. I've seen examples of just having their name on the middle of the table. I got one principal that I used to work with in St. Paul that he would always make a child like a little triangle the name of the student, and he would physically put that in the middle of the table. Um, and he would make sure that it's about that child, you know, um, and make sure that we're always keeping the focus on the child, and that it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the child. So I thought that was a great example, and a great uh, job from the school and the district to say, hey, that we care about your child and we want to make it about them. All right. So, and these are just some more resources to support parent participation on the IEP team. I think out of all of these, all of them are good, but if you have time, definitely check out that 8-minute video. There's our IEP meeting checklist for parents, which is a PACER checklist that we have. It's really, really good. Record keeping supports, parent participation in special ed planning, and then tips for turning difficult conversations with your child's IEP team into productive conversations. And there's a lot of great examples on there where, if you are having a difficult time with your district, and the relationship is not so good, there's tips in there to really help turn that conversation around, to get it back to your child. So a lot of great points in there. So I highly suggest that. All right. So this is the prior written notice. So this is a big one. Um, so really a prior written notice, and why is it so important for parents to respond to a prior written notice from school? So um, parent action in the special ed process. So after an IEP meeting, the school must give you a prior written notice, or PWN, and proposed IEP within a reasonable time. Generally, that's within a couple of weeks. If the prior written notice only documents a refusal of a request you've made, the school must give you the prior written notice within 14 days of your request. I'll say that again. If the prior written notice only documents a refusal of a request you've made, the school must give you the prior written notice within 14 days of that request. And so the prior written notice describes and explains why the school is proposing or refusing specific actions related to your child's IEP, including what sources of information were used, other options considered by the school, and why they were rejected, and additional related factors. So all of that is on the prior written notice, and it looks different for every district, but it'll be just be a simple letter, and it'll ask you if you accept or deny this IEP, and they'll have all that laid out within the letter and what that looks like, and what those services are. So um, they'll make sure you double check that, and they're going to wait until you put it in your child's backpack or you physically give it to the front desk of the school. So yeah, and there's also a good resource here for the prior written notice. So why is it important for parents to respond to a prior written notice from the school? So it gets more in depth of what that looks like in schools. If they don't receive that, they'll, even with the refusal, again, like I just explained, they'll continue on with the IEP. And right here, there we go. So if you do not object in writing within 14 days of when the district sends you the prior written notice, or PWN, the school will proceed with the action proposed or refused in the prior written notice. So they'll just go ahead and do it after that 14 days. If you do object, you have options to try to resolve your disagreement, including, and this is what I mentioned earlier, what are the parents' rights? It's requesting a conciliation conference or a facilitated team meeting or mediation. So the ones that do tend to take a little bit longer are the facilitated team meeting or mediation, because that is ran through mainly through MDE and a facilitator. And that generally takes a little bit of time. Really, the conciliation conference is done with the family and the school directly, and a lot of the issues can be done within that level. And so, but if it does need to go to that facility team meeting and mediation, um, that option is there. And also those two are voluntary to the district and the parents. And MDE is always willing to do it, but both of them have to agree to that process. Identifying the specific parts of the proposed or refused actions that you object to, and requesting a meeting with appropriate members of the IEP team. So it's really those actions or those steps or parts of the IEP are proposed specifically in the prior written notice. So, yeah. And so important, the school district must not proceed with the initial evaluation of your child, the initial placement of your child in a special education program, or the initial provision of special education services for your child without your prior written consent. So they need a signature from the parent, or if your child's at the age of majority, age 18. But I mean, all of that should have been done earlier. But really, with the parents, they need your signature. For other proposed changes to your child's placement of or the provision of special education services on their IEP, you must have the opportunity to object to the proposed changes. So you'll have a place for that to object to the proposed changes on the prior written notice. And if you do not respond in writing within 14 calendar days of when a proposed IEP, prior written notice, and parental consent objection form was sent or given to you, the proposed IEP can go into effect as written through implied consent. And if you object to any prior written notice from the school, you're required to object in writing. So so you got to make sure that if you do object to it, that you have to either physically give it to the school, or sometimes a lot of the times the school will see that email as in writing. So it has to be in writing somewhere, and the school has to receive it. So that's very, very, very important. So here we go. So parental rights and procedural safeguards. So again, this is where the part of the slide. So children with disabilities ages 3 through 21, but now it's 26. And so what are those safeguards? Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to jump in. I think it's that where Minnesota got in trouble through a class action lawsuit was that Minnesota was cutting off services that July 1st after the 21st birthday. But under IDEA, the special education services go through 21, as in all the way to a student's 22nd birthday. And it doesn't matter, that could be in the middle of school year, could be anytime. But so now through that class action lawsuit, that violation was corrected. And so now if your student is receiving transition services in a program after 12th grade, they can remain in that program as long as they're, continuing to show eligibility until their 22nd birthday. And so that it's through 21. It might be clear if we just say to the 22nd birthday.
And that's what confuses. Thanks for clearing it up, Miss Rachel. So through the 22nd birthday. And so those are the safeguards, and these are the statutes here, and also the MDE parental rights. So Minnesota Department of Education will explain that. So that's part B. Part C is children with disabilities, birth through age 2. So this is that early childhood sort of area. So what are the IDEA safeguards? So that's the federal law, and then what the state says, and also MDE has a good handout of those parental rights right there. So I won't waste too much time in going through each one, but also, those are what the two main areas, children with disability and what those procedural safeguards are. That it does cover, Miss Rachel, you can probably correct me, but I think they call the IEP when it's that early. I think they call it what is it again?
Yeah, an IFSP.
IFSP. There you go. So that's a family plan. So it's kind of similar to an IEP, but pretty much once the school district sees that, they'll know, oh man, boom, we got to start an IEP right away. So once the school district sees that, they'll just say, hey, this is from the early childhood provider. They'll get that going. So, there's, pretty much this is here to let you know that there are safeguards and laws attached to those age groups. So again, more resources. Again, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great videos that we have, and due process hearing, and also I think a big one that a lot of parents wouldn't think of, but MDE and discrimination link we have on the bottom, that they can also have a lot of resources as well. Um, and IEP meetings look different for every child, and a lot of that does get into behavior. And so, we want to put all resources on the table. And so that's why we put that discrimination link in there as well, just for you to see that there's help in different offices in different areas to make sure that your child is being served. And so we want to make sure that you have access to those, and um, that those laws still do pertain in this sense as well. And so we have the Minnesota Department of Human Rights that really covers that, but they also have their hand in education. Um, and so we want to make sure that we also do provide those uh, services and information to families. Again, we are not lawyers, we are not practicing law, but we can help with those resources and give them to families when needed. More resources continue. So comparison charts. So really just how school districts work together to resolve disagreements, what it looks like when you're in the school environment. A lot of parents just see dropping off their kid at school and picking them up, but school building is kind of an organic thing, and there's a lot of things going on, and we want to make sure parents know how those buildings work and operate. And so, we want to make sure that these resources are here for you guys. And so, uh, compliment or complaint processes available to parents of students with disabilities. That's another good one. Recorded webinars and videos. So there's a couple webinars in there and a short video on strategies for solving disagreements. And we go through our own training as well at Pacer with Miss Rachel to help with those disagreements. I got a big binder she gave me right here that I refer to regularly to help me navigate those tough meetings. And so, we're doing our work here at Pacer, and also families. We want to make sure you have the opportunity to look through those resources. All right, so we're going on to cultural representation in special ed. And so, kind of just when I mentioned earlier about cultural representation, it's really um, important that districts really do take that in account. And especially just working with Native children, it's are they, is their curriculum representing of their child's culture? And that's a big one we get in the Native community that, um, a lot of the times it's not. So a lot of the times the curriculum is just really teaching about, and we get that a lot in our history books, right? Especially in secondary, those history books are, you know, they don't properly and accurately sometimes talk about Native culture in the most accurate way, right? Or the most sensitive way. And so a lot of times when I'm working with parents or Native parents, it's, are you taking the resources from your Indian Ed office, or are you uh, reaching out to the Minnesota Department of Education's Indian Education office? Um, and really it's using those tools and resources that when I'm working with parents and families, especially that, making sure that they're using all the resources at their disposal, but also that they're aware that there is and could possibly be an Indian Ed representative that could be at that meeting. And some of the accommodations could be, um, sitting with their Indian homeschool liaison or sitting in the Indian Ed room while they're beading or having time to smudge, right? So with sage. And so a lot of that can help with behavior, right? And so really that cultural elements the district doesn't know. And so that's a big reason why I was hired here at Pacer, was to give a voice to that and a voice to families, that there's other things that culturally, especially if your child is active in the community, going to powwows, going to sweats or going to anything cultural or going back home, that's cultural. And those are things that help our children graduate. I think a big one in our community is also eagle feathers, right? At graduation. Every year, the commissioner from the Minnesota Department of Education sends out a letter, and this is kind of sad to see, but he sends out a letter every year to superintendents saying, you have to allow this, or you have to allow eagle feathers or a beaded cap during graduation, right? And so a lot of districts, they usually just turn their head, or the superintendent turns their head and totally forgets about it. But that's something that we have to keep in mind and be aware of. And so, um, in those IEP meetings and whatnot, that the cultural representation is just as important, um, with those services. And so, um, but yeah, so I just want to make sure you guys are in the right headspace and in the right space to um, get with that. And so, again, these are just examples of ways to use your voice. And so, earlier you heard me mention Seek and Apex. So, real quick, so ways to use your voice. So, join your district's American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. So, again, if you have more than 5 students in your district, more than 5 Native students, they got to have a parent advisory committee. So that's state law. And so, a lot of districts don't know that. And so that's usually when you have to let your school board know and let your district know that, they got to have a parent advisory committee. Now, Sikhs are a little bit different. Every district has a Sikh, you know, a special education advisory council that parents are on. And so it's your job just to find that, and what what and where are they having those meetings, at the district office, at a school building. It kind of looks different for every district, but they should have a seat, and they should have that. And so these are just a couple ways for parents to sit on and be more active in their child's education. And not only are you changing your child's education, but you're helping the district make decisions for every child, for every Native child, and also children with disabilities. So, yeah, so I highly suggest those. Get active in your school's parent teacher organization, PTO. So, um, if you have that, you should have that at your school. So those are really great for parents to be active. It could be from anything to raising money for your school, or helping organizing events, or, every school kind of does their PTO a little different. Helping with um, conferences, things like that. So parents are really gun ho about PTO groups. And so I really highly advise for you guys to definitely join those PTOs. And they could be very fun too, to kind of get in the community. Volunteer your time for school committees and community events. Schools are always looking for volunteers. School districts have a volunteer process. I suggest you follow that, and look for an opportunity to volunteer in your child's school. Um, yeah, so I know a lot of the things I do. I volunteered, and I went back this school year. I went back to one of my old districts that I worked for, Birdsville Public Schools, and I did a storytelling night for them, and kind of how Indian education started in Burnsville. I was the Indian Ed lead staff there, and this was over 10 years ago now, um, but yeah, just volunteering your time for those community events could be a big deal in your child's education. And another big one is attending the Minnesota Indian Education Association conference. It just passed last week. I just attended that. I have notes here from this year as well, but yeah, it just passed last week, and it was a really great conference. But it's a really great place to really connect with other parents, to really hear what's going on, not just in special ed, but Indian education as a whole, to learn more skills. Um, yeah, so it's a really great opportunity just to kind of bond with other parents, and so I really highly suggest that. I would go through your district and talk to the lead staff of your American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, or if you're on Seek, I would talk to the lead staff or the district rep for your Seek and talk to about attending that, because usually districts 9 times out of 10 will fund the parents to go and also fund the transportation and the lodging as well for them to attend the MIEA conference that they hold that every year. But yeah, I highly suggest that. Advocate for cultural inclusion in your child's IEP. I think, again, just like I explained before I went into this slide, is really just, smudging um, or like, let's say, has a school district ever thought about having a district powwow, for example? Those are just small examples of those cultural inclusions in your child's IEP. And if they're really active in the community and in those traditional ways, which are really good ways, and it helps them be more successful, I would say, definitely mention it in those IEP meetings. And end of the day, it's really just telling your child's story, I think, um, and where they're coming from, because it's really about them. Yeah, in the slide deck, once you receive that, there's more information on Apex from MDE and the Minnesota Department of Education. Pacer, we have a quick guide to Seeks, which is really, really great. We have a colleague that helped got that together. And she's really great on Seeks, and then also the MIA conference website. I don't know where next year will be, or if they figure that out. I think they're just kind of coming off that excitement from last week. So you got to give those guys a little time to breathe to for that committee to get that together. But all that will be updated in the future. But we have a couple questions in the chat. Let me
I-
make sure I get to that.
But yeah, Dominic, look in the chat. That's wonderful to read that
Um,
comment.
Thank you for your time. And then I attended MAA. That's how I found about this training. Awesome, Carissa. Awesome. Um, cool, real cool. Yeah. So yeah, but we'll go ahead and let me get back to the slide deck. And really it's let
Yeah,
us put our oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but if you look in the chat, someone just shared, um, it's a really, really, um, amazing, toolkit from the
Oh yeah,
of the Dean Education.
Kathy.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Kathy shared tribal regalia graduation toolkits for schools and families in Arizona. Oh wow, yeah. I'm gonna have to check that out afterwards. Yeah, because I know I can only speak for the state of Minnesota, but Arizona and our Navajo relatives and Dene relatives really do a lot of great stuff in Arizona, and they got a really great state Indian education program in the state of Arizona. I got some colleagues down there that I talk with every now and then just to see what they're doing, and they're doing a lot of good stuff when it comes to language and culture. Again, oh yeah, language and culture. Another thing for cultural supports is making sure that language is, if that's an option, making sure. Oh, Tamara couldn't see the chat sharing. Oh yeah, so if you click on the actual screen, you can actually, there's an option in the Zoom meeting that you should be able to see the chat. You have to click on the chat there,
And,
Tamara. Yeah.
and Dominic, we can
Yeah.
add, the tribal regalia graduation toolkit from the state of Arizona,
Hmm.
from their Office of Indian Education. We can add that to the list of resources that you've already, that are already linked in the slide deck. We could even add it to the,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that everyone who's here tonight can get those links in the follow-up email.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's already saved for us, but we'll make sure we can throw all these links in there as well. So um yeah, I'll definitely check it out afterwards and make sure that gets in there. Yeah, but oh yeah, yeah, no problem. Oh, no problem, Tamara. Yeah, looks like she figured it out. Good, good. We're not the 100% tech savvy, but we're trying to get by tonight. So um but yes, really I think it's and I got this Sitting Bull quote here that was shared with me with an old colleague of mine. He passed away now, but you guys, some of you guys might know him, but Mr. John Bottling, he was the past director for of Indian education in St. Paul Public Schools, but he helped me and really kind of taught me um, uh, not just this quote, but making sure that if I'm doing my work right as an educator, that I make sure that I'm serving children and families first. And so he would always use this quote at the end of our parent committee meetings, where a lot of the time between our parent committee and the district, those meetings can be a little spicy sometimes. And I think a lot of families know in this meeting right now that it can get a little, not necessarily hostile, but a lot of disagreements happen. And so really it's just let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. And so, really, I think I remind myself that on a daily basis when I'm doing my work at Pacer, and I'm doing my work ever since I started being an educator back when I graduated out of college in 2003, and doing this work actively, um, or actually attending college. So, um, yeah, so I make sure that that's on my forefront and I'm doing the work for our families. So, but yeah, so we have our Ask an Advocate form. Um, do you have questions about how to help your child get the services they need? Most PACER advocates are parents of children with disabilities who understand what you're experiencing and are ready to help. Feel free to use that QR code here. Use your phone anytime or share with anybody else to get in touch with us, an advocate, or to fill out our online form, or you could just pick up the old telephone and call us at 952-838-9000. And I'll go to our main line and I'll make sure it'll get to one of us. So yeah, so we're here anytime to answer your questions. And also we have our 2026 Pacer Gala Saturday, April 25th at the JW Marriott in Mall of America, presented by the Stephen C. Simon and family. So that's our yearly gala that we have. It might be a little different for people because they're used to seeing our big show with a big concert and everything, but this is something we tried last year and so found great success. And so definitely come check us out, and you can see it with the code in the corner tickets and info at pacer.org/gala right there. So definitely check it out and support us. And also, if you found this workshop helpful, please consider making a donation to support services like these and anything else with the code on the screen or at pacer.org/donate. Yeah, so just leave that up there for a second. And yeah. So again, our information, Pacer Center, Champions for Children with Disabilities. So there's our address, our number, our email, and our website. A lot of information on our website. And make sure to follow us on social media. So that's at Pacer Center on all the main hubs. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So all that is available for families to follow. I know myself, I post a lot of Facebook messages or posts on activities I'm doing with Pacer, and I make sure I let families see that. So not even my current Pacer families, but also my past families see that. And so they can see that I'm still doing the work. And so uh, a lot of old families still call me from older districts. And so I kind of just let them know that I'm working with Pacer now. And so they follow the Pacer protocol, but I still help families in the community one-on-one when they reach out to me on those social networks. So if you see me on a social network, don't be afraid to add me, and I'll definitely do that. But then again, Miguel, Palame, thank you. Again, I'm Dominic at Buffalo. My email's on the screen, but I want to leave this time for Q&A as we got a little time. So I'm going to just leave this up here for one more second, and I'll stop sharing to make sure that you get my email there. But
You
all
have
right.
another thank you, Dominic, in the
Oh,
chat.
oh, yeah, let me so if I can finally see myself. There we go. All right, let's get these thank yous in here. Sorry, let me put that down. All right. Thank you for sharing this information. Oh, thank you, Zach, for attending. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Um, so yeah, so I'll just leave it open, the chat open, but I don't know if you guys can unmute yourself as well, but let me, I don't know. I never did that, but you guys should be able to unmute yourselves. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask right now. This is the time. Or feel free just to use the chat that's open as well.
We have another thank you in the Q&A.
Oh, thank you from Jenny. Oh no, thank you. Thank you for attending. Glad it was helpful. Yeah, and all this, all the slide decks will be going out to the participants that came tonight. I know a couple just left now, but those will go to you, and also with that a survey, right? Am I right, Miss Rachel?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. We really
Okay.
rely on your responses to our surveys.
Yeah, and real quick, since well everyone here,
And
let me see.
we have another comment in the chat,
Okay, hold on, let me.
another
Oh,
couple.
yep. I will be sending the links as well. That should be emailed to you after the present. I don't know if it'll be immediately done tonight, but it'll definitely be next day. You'll definitely get um the links and the slides. You'll get everything that you've seen here. So um yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to, I can allow one person to talk, but I'm trying to allow everybody to um
You have, while you work on that,
mm,
just read for those who uh, maybe can't see the chat that June says, thank you so much for this workshop. As a master's student in special education, it really helped me learn more about IEPs from a parent's perspective, and I truly appreciate it. And we will, someone is asking, Dominic, you will be sending the links, right? And will the survey be
yep.
here or in the email?
It should be in the email. Yes, in the email. Yep. Yeah,
Yes.
all that will be in the email, but
And we did not have an early bird special, but there is, once you complete the survey, you will get a link to a certificate of attendance. So,
yes, yes, yes. Yep.
so that prize will be coming to you. Um,
Yes.
and then you have another message in the chat. Do you want me to read it and then you can?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, my son is nonverbal in second grade. My concerns are always if there is adaptive worksheets in his general education classroom, if they're accessible, and how do I ask about that?
Accessible, and how do I ask about that?
Right. So in the general, I can read it again. I know that's a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
son is nonverbal
Okay.
in second grade.
Okay.
My concerns are always if there are adaptive worksheets for him in his general education classroom that so that it's accessible to him, like the learning
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
experience. And how do I ask as a parent?
Right.
How do I ask about that?
Right. So again, there's a difference when, if your child's already on an IEP, so I'm gonna assume that as well. Again, it's
Mhm.
to call that IEP meeting. Um, you can call that any time of the school year, but if this is like 504 accommodations, you can make that call to the school as well. It's not just making an IEP meeting, but again, it's again mentioning those things that when your child's IEP is not being followed, um, we want to make sure that we use everything in our disposal or all the tools we have, right? So again, it's calling that IEP meeting and then letting them know that they need access to adaptability worksheets or they need access to their uh, speech to text software or their technology. So it's a lot of those things that are written on the IEP when it's not being um, followed. Uh, it's better we go through those steps to make sure that again, once you get that first alert or that first sign that your child's not getting those services, make sure that we're calling that meeting right away. So, um, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And could I add, Dominic, that
Yeah, go ahead.
maybe it's not so much the how you ask the question, but just that you ask the question, that that's so powerful,
Hmm.
asking the question. And sometimes I think parents are not sure who do I ask? And, as you were saying, if your child has an IEP, then they have an IEP case manager. And it's okay if you don't know who that person is. Their name should be right on the first page of your son's IEP. That's where you would look for it, and their contact information.
Hmm.
Or if your son has a 504 plan, then the 504 coordinator's name should be right on that 504 plan name. And if you can't find those documents, you can call the school principal and say, I need to talk to my IEP case manager or my 504 plan coordinator. I've got questions. So connect me. How
Right,
you ask the question is, that is the not as important as just asking the question. Don't hold that question in your head. Find the person who can answer it for you, and that might lead, as Dominic explained, that might lead to an IEP team meeting. But definitely
right.
ask it.
Yeah, and it's just being vocal too. And I know definitely a good working relationship with your child's school is the utmost importance, and I want to keep that as positive as possible. So definitely, do it the right way, and again, um, doing it respectfully, and making sure the school's more adaptive to making sure that those things get changed right away. So yeah, I just could not find that. uh, Panelists and attendees allow attendees to view the participant count, start video, unmute themselves, allow panel. Uh, but if you want something to say, just raise your hand and I can unmute you, I believe, on the list. But if not, we're definitely still here for 6 more minutes. So yeah, so just raise your hand. You should be able to, and I can allow you to talk. But if not, feel free to use the chat again. That's open.
And and the parent who asked the question about, their nonverbal son
Mhm.
is saying thank you, and I know everything is case by case. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Do you want to
Carissa.
talk
Yeah.
more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a case by case basis. And again, an IEP is individualized to your child. It's not a one size fits all sort of thing. A lot of districts might have a language like that, or maybe even have a fix like that. So it's not like that at all. This is individualized to your child's needs. And so I make sure, and we help navigate that too at Pacer when we're sitting in meetings, that this is about their child and what specific needs they need. It's not what the other child needs, but that's why it's called an IEP, individualized education plan or program, that they need to follow. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything else, but I'll do one more quick spiel. I am doing a listening circle this Thursday. We didn't make a slide for it, but that's more on my end. That if you look on Pacer social media, if you look on our Facebook, you'll see a a a, uh, a post about a listening circle, and so it will be this Thursday. I can share. Let me see my schedule here. I could sneak that in the chat real quick. I only know we have a couple minutes, but let me see if I can actually share the meeting, or just copy the invitation. And if I can at least throw it in the chat for you guys. So let
And
me
we
do
can
that real quick.
also, Dominic, we can also add that, definitely throw it in the chat, but we can also add that to the follow-up email.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. We can do that in the follow-up email as well. So I'm gonna throw that in the chat. So that's just the listening circle this Thursday. So it starts at 5. And so this will I'm having a parent speaker come in to talk about her experience with special ed. And this is also for Native families as well. So make sure yeah, let me see to make sure that I can actually share that to everyone. Okay, so it should be in the chat right now. It's a listening circle. I would put our fancy flyer in there, but I don't know where it is in my computer at the moment. I got like 20 different boxes open right now, but but
Dominic,
yes.
do you also want to talk about it's a little bit later, but on April 23rd, Making Room for More Stories, American Indian Family Engagement for education?
Oh, yes, yes. I am also having next month, I'm having a session for educators and staff, for professionals, and a workshop for them. So that'll be the evening of let me pull it up here in my calendar.
I think it's April
Um
23rd.
yep, April 23rd, and they'll start we might switch the start time to make it a little earlier, but for right now it'll be April 23rd starting at 5, but we may switch that a little earlier because it is for educators, and a lot of them are done with their school day by 4. So we might go from 4 to 5:30. So, but I'll keep that updated. Um, and I'll share that as well when if that time changes. So we're having discussions about that right now. But for right now, it's 5 to 6:30 on April 23rd. And that's on our Pacer website.
Mhm.
And you can definitely register there, and that's free for educators. And yep, and usually a part of my work is also to work with districts and to help them with their cultural competency. So, um, yeah, so yeah, opportunity for educators. All right, so last minute here. Anything else?
I just like to come on and say thank you to you, Dominic. And it's such a privilege I could share with everyone to work with Dominic. He's told me many stories over the couple of years that he's worked here at Pacer Center, and I have learned from all of them. And I know in our work that we both do side by side, taking parent calls and hearing your stories, we learn from all of you when you call us. And you can practice on us because hopefully that gives you more courage and confidence to tell your stories to your IEP teams, as Dominic has spoken to tonight. Your stories are very, very powerful when you tell them.
Thank you,
I
Miss
want to
Rachel.
thank you, Dominic, for reminding us of that.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you, Miss Rachel. And also thank you to the parents. And glad to be here and glad to be with Pacer and glad to serve you guys. So again, us at Pacer, me and Miss Rachel Miigwech, Wopula, thank you. And hope you guys have a nice night. Bye.
Bye.